Hello friends, Mr. Baines here with today's knowledge lesson. Today we will learn about the second type of water habitat. Let's check in with our pal Rattenborough to see what exciting adventure he has for us today. But first, let's learn a little about his new location.
Today we will learn about the saltwater habitat. Now, as you may remember, we have already learned about one particular saltwater habitat when we studied the Arctic Ocean. For many years, only four oceans were recognized as saltwater habitats. They were the Arctic, the Pacific, the Atlantic, and the Indian Oceans. Well, a few years ago, the Southern Ocean, which lies along the coastline of Antarctica, was designated as the fifth saltwater ocean. So listen carefully as we talk more about oceans and the saltwater habitat. Welcome to the last habitat that we are going to explore. In the last read aloud, we explored freshwater habitats. Now, we're going to learn about another kind of water habitat, a saltwater habitat. Saltwater habitats, as you could guess from their name, contain lots of salt. This means that we can't use salt water for drinking. Would you like to drink a cup of salty water? Ugh, no thanks. It's hard to imagine, but more of the earth is covered in water than is covered with land. Most of that water is salt water in oceans and seas. Oceans are huge areas of salt water that stretch all around our planet, and they are home to almost half of the world's species of animals and millions of different plants. The water in the oceans come from rain as well as from rivers and streams that flow into the oceans. Seas are smaller areas of salt water that have land around them or around part of them. I've come to the largest ocean, the Pacific, to show you a bit more about ocean habitats and the plants and animals that live in them. I'm standing on a beach looking out at the water. You can see that the waves are crashing onto the beach. This beach and any land that runs alongside the ocean is called the coastline or shoreline. Now, you may think that when you are standing on the land looking at the water, that the land stops where the water starts. It certainly looks that way, but let me get my trusty scuba gear out and walk into the water. Now that I'm here, I'm still standing on land. It's just that the land is under the water. The land slopes downward the further I go out into the water, which means that the water is getting deeper and deeper. The interesting thing about the ocean floor, which is the land under the ocean water, is that it is not really flat. As on land, the earth beneath the ocean waters has both mountains and valleys. This makes some areas of the water in the ocean deeper than others. The Pacific Ocean is full of both plant and animal life, but not all of them share the same space. The conditions under the water are very different in various places. Some parts are deep and some are shallow. There are cool parts and there are warm parts. Some are dark and some are full of light. There are plants and animals in nearly every part of the ocean, some in the deep open waters far from land and some in the shallow waters closer to the shore. Some animals like turtles, jellyfish, and crabs live closer to the shore where it's shallow and warmer. Some animals like it better near the surface of the water, while others prefer to live down at the very bottom of the ocean on the deep ocean floor. They have all had to adapt to the conditions of their habitats. For instance, the animals that live in the deeper parts of the ocean have had to adapt to total darkness because the sun just can't reach that deep. Some fish, like the devilfish, have large mouths and sharp teeth so that they can catch their prey as easily as possible. Other sea creatures have feelers on their bodies that help them feel where their food is. And some animals make their own light with special chemicals in their bodies, like when you carry a flashlight in the dark. I have now arrived at a special part of a saltwater habitat called a coral reef, which is made up of many tiny animals called corals. Corals stay in one place all of their adult lives. They have stomachs and mouths and even skeletons. These skeletons can be on the inside or outside of the coral animals and are also called coral. When the coral animal dies, its skeleton remains in place and other coral animals will come and live on top of the old skeletons. The colony in which the coral lives is called a coral reef. I'm here in the Pacific Ocean at a coral reef. In addition to the coral, there are many other kinds of animals around the reef. I have found everything from fish and jellyfish to octopi and sharks to snails and turtles. Here is an animal that lies in and around this coral reef, and whose name most of you can probably guess based on its shape. You guessed it, it's a starfish. This starfish, also known as a sea star, has 5 arms, which makes it look like a star. Although it is called a starfish, it's not actually a fish. It belongs to a group of animals that have a spiny skin all over their bodies. If I touch the starfish, I can feel that its body is covered with tiny, hard bumps that help protect it from predators, such as sharks, manta rays, and other fish. Starfish are also able to protect themselves in another amazing way. If another animal actually catches and bites off one of the starfish's arms, the starfish will not die, and it can still escape. In time, a new arm will grow back to replace the arm that was missing. When an animal regrows a missing body part, it's called regeneration. The starfish does not swim. It actually crawls very slowly along the ocean floor using hundreds of tiny tube feet. These feet attach to whatever the starfish is crawling over. And as it crawls along the floor, the starfish is always on the lookout for food. This starfish's prey includes fish, snails, clams, oysters, and crabs. Here is another animal that lives in salt water. This shellfish is called a lobster. Lobsters live on the ocean floor in openings between rocks. Their hard shell stops most other animals from trying to eat them. Lobsters have many legs that they use for crawling about, and they use antennae on their head to feel their way along the murky ocean floor. I have to watch out for these lobster claws. They are called pinchers, and they are very strong. The lobster uses them to defend itself against prey and to catch and crush its food. Lobsters are carnivores. They eat fish, worms, and other shellfish. I'm going to move out of the way of this lobster before I get squeezed. Uh-oh. It looks like I have moved right into the path of another predator. This is a hammerhead shark. If you take a look, you can see how the hammerhead got its name. Its head is very thick and it looks like a hammer from above, with an eye and a nostril on each end. The hammerhead shark is a large fish growing up to 20 feet long and weighing over 500 pounds. That's about the same weight as 10 first graders. Hammerheads like to live in warm waters, so they are mostly found near the coast where the waters are shallow and warm. Sharks are carnivores. The hammerhead's favorite food is a fish called a ray, but it also likes to eat octopus, lobster, crab, and other fish, including other sharks. Most sharks have smooth and slender bodies, which help them to swim pretty fast. Their mouths are full of sharp teeth to help catch their prey. Let's go back up to the surface. There's a sea animal I'm sure you all want to see, but we have to travel further out to sea away from the coral reef and into deeper water to get a glimpse of it. This amazing creature is the biggest animal in the world. It's a blue whale. Blue whales have blue-gray skin and are covered in a layer of thick blubber that helps keep them warm in the frigid ocean depths. Blue whales are so big that they can weigh as much as 25 elephants. In fact, blue whales are the biggest animals known to have lived on Earth, even bigger than the dinosaurs. The blue whale spends all of its time living in deep water, but unlike fish, it can't breathe underwater because it does not have gills. It needs to breathe air, just like we do. The blue whale can hold its breath and stay under the water for as long as 30 minutes before eventually having to come up for air. It breathes using blowholes on the top of its head. Sometimes when it does come up for air, it breathes out a huge fountain of water from the blowholes. Blue whales are carnivores. They eat lots of food to build up their blubber during the summer months when the food is easy to find. Blue whales eat teeny tiny sea creatures called plankton. The plankton that blue whales eat are small shrimp-like shellfish that are about the size of your little finger. It's incredible to think that the biggest animal on Earth eats one of the smallest animals on Earth. The ocean is so huge and deep that we could spend all year looking at the plants and animals that live there and still not see them all. In fact, there are still many living things in the ocean that people and adventurous rats, like myself, have not even discovered yet. I hope you have enjoyed learning about the animals in this saltwater habitat in the Pacific Ocean. We still have one more stop to make on our worldwide tour of habitats. But until then, I'll see you soon.